Welcome back to our Developer Basics course. We previously created a contract management service. Now we'll learn how to manipulate documents so that we can complete this service at a further stage. In this video, we'll focus on creating and retrieving documents, as well as how to handle them in the context of unit tests. So we'll head back to our unit test class. Before adding a new test method, we have a prerequisite to go through. So far, we've been using the runtime feature to deploy the bundles needed for our service deployment. Now that we're ready to manipulate documents, we'll need to deploy more bundles. It's time to switch to another feature. But which one? Nuxeo Platform is composed of 4 code layers. The runtime layer is where components are deployed. In our unit test, we used the runtime feature to deploy the bundles it contains. The core layer provides several vital functionalities of Nuxeo Platform, such as document manipulation and security. The core feature is associated with the core layer. The services layer offers several additional functionalities and is split into various features depending on what needs to be tested. The only layer you aren't able to test is the user interface. Functional tests are required to simulate the browsing experience, and that will be explored in another session. Manipulating documents is part of the core layer, so we will replace the runtime feature with the core feature. The core feature includes the runtime feature, which will deploy the bundles needed to manipulate documents on top of it. To learn how to manipulate documents, we will start by creating one, then we will retrieve it. We are currently working with the core layer. To continue, we need an object called the core session. In the context of a unit test, the core session can be injected using the @inject annotation in your class. You'll then specify a variable name for it. In this case, we'll use core session. The core session is the main object used to manipulate documents and query the database. It can be used to create, update, and retrieve documents, launch NXQL queries, or to check user permissions on a document. We'll use it to create a file document right under the repository's root. We will first use the createDocumentModel method to detect a new document. It takes 3 parameters: a parent path under which the document will be created, a name that will be used to generate this document's path, and a document type. In this case, we will specify / as the parent path, use myFile as a document name, and file as the document type. So far, the document is still stored in memory, so we will call the core session's createDocument method. This will add a flag on the document that the next time we ask the database to write all pending changes, our document will be a part of them. Then we will add a call to the core session's save method. That will force any pending changes to be written in the database. It is a good practice to create or update all the documents needed before calling this method in order to limit the number of calls made to the database. Now let's assert we can retrieve this document. There are several ways to achieve this goal: using the document's ID, path, or using a NXQL query. Let's start with the ID and path. We'll use the core session's getDocument method for that. Notice that we are asked for a document ref object. To build a document ref from a document ID, you can detect an ID ref object and pass it to the document ID by calling the document model's getID method. That's particularly useful when you store a document ID in a property, which happens, for instance, when you use a document suggestion widget in Studio. Getting a document ref from a document's path is almost the same, except you would rather detect a path ref object and pass it to the document's path as a string using the document model's getPathAsString method. This one comes in handy when you are looking for a specific document in a structure but do not know its ID. Now we will assert that the retrieved document is not null. Then we can try to retrieve the document using a NXQL query. We'll write our query in a variable and use the core session's query method to launch it. This time we will retrieve a document's list, so our assertion will be slightly different. We'll check that the list size is equal to 1. Let's launch the tests now. And look, they all pass, except when we try to retrieve the document through the NXQL query. So what's the difference? It can be explained with a simple reason. We placed the tests before the document is written in the database. At this stage, it is only marked for write when the database will be called. When retrieving the document using its ID or path, we didn't need to look into the database. We just created it, and it is therefore available in the session. By using NXQL, on the other hand, we forced a lookup in the database, so the test failed. To fix that, we'll move the tests after the changes are saved in the database, and we'll launch the tests again. And this time, they all pass. Note that calling the core session save method is only needed in the context of a unit test. Everywhere else in Nuxeo Platform, this method will be called automatically when needed. Let's sum up what we did in this video. We used the core feature and injected the core session to be able to manipulate documents. To create a document, we used the core session's createDocumentModel method, passing it a parent path, a name, and a document type. To mark the document for write in the database, we'll use the core session's createDocument method. Then we forced any pending change to be written to the database using the core session's save method. To retrieve the document, we can use the core session's getDocument method. The document ref object that needs to be passed can be obtained either through a document ID by detecting an ID ref object or using a document path by detecting a path ref object. Alternatively, you can use a NXQL query to retrieve documents using the core session's query method. Now that you know how to create and retrieve a document, we'll tell you a few tricks about updating it in our next video. Also, feel free to have a look at the source code used for this video by following the link in the related resources. Thanks for watching.